there, everybody. This is Schism with a 2,500-point pitch battle. My Empire versus some Beastmen. Starting out on my opponent's right, he has a Tuskor Chariot, a Spawn. To the left of that, he has 40 Gore with a full command and additional hand weapon. In there, he has a level 1 with a Channeling Staff. For a spell, he rolled up Curse of Honor here. In the middle here, he has 8 of these Mountains, Milk Chocolate, Hershey's Kisses, Minotaurs here. They have a full command. And yeah, that's a pretty scary prospect for some Empire statesmen. So that's a big priority for my army to deal with first and foremost. To the left of that, he has like 44 Bestigor, I want to say. 42, 43, or 44. That unit has the Banner of Discipline. On the far right corner of that unit, he has his Beast Lord General with a Ram Horn Helm, Gnarled Hide, Sword of Might, Crown of Command, and Heavy Armor. So he is Strength 6, and he's got a 1-up save, and every save he makes, he gets an extra attack. The banner there, the white banner, is his BSB, the one smeared with poo and fecal matter, and more poo and more fecal matter, and all kinds of fun, gnarly, snotty things. He's rocking the armor Silver Steel, a great weapon, and a Lux Stone. Also in that unit, he has a level 1 with a Dispel Scroll, and for a spell, he has Wild Form. In the unit in the back, he has 30 Gore with additional hand weapon. They are 5 wide and 6 deep. He has a level 2 with his Staff of Sorcery and an Iron Curse icon. And for spells, he has an Amber Spear and another Wild Form. So a lot of potential Wild Form spam there, which is always scary. Rounding out his forces on the far left, he has 10 Ungor Raiders. Starting on my far left, I have 50 Halberdiers. And tucked away in that top left-hand corner is a Warrior Priest with heavy armor and a Charmed Shield. Behind that is a Celestial Hurricanum. To the right of that, I have 30 Great Swords, and in there I have my Archlector, who is my general. He has armor of Meteoric Iron, a Dawn Stone, and a great weapon. Behind that is a bunker of 20 Swordsmen with no command, and in there is my level 4, the Dispel Scroll, and tucked in the other corner there is a BSB with full plate mail and a shield. For spells, I rolled up Banishment, Fire Protection, Speed of Light, and Barona's Time Warp. Now, I love this spell set. You really can't get too much better than this. Banishment is good in certain situations, but I'd rather have another buff or a Light of Battle or even a net to try and completely shut down one of his units one turn. But other than that, Fast Protection, Speed of Light, and Barona's Time Warp are perfect spells for Empire to turn my measly, piddly little Empire statesmen into gods of battle. Especially the Bubble Fast Protection and Speed of Light. Most armies will need a 6 to hit me with everything. So I love that spell set, so I really can't complain about that. To the right of those great swords, there is 30 swordsmen, and they are there just for ranks and banner and to steadfast and to soak up some wounds. So that's really a fodder unit in this game just to fill up the core. To the right of that unit, I have 3 demigryphs, no command, then 3 more demigryphs and no command. And in this building here, I have 2 great cannons set up accordingly. And to the right of that, on cannon guard duty, is a captain on a Pegasus with enchanted shield, sword of might, luck stone, and full plate mail. So he's got a 1-up save. He's strength 5. He's pretty durable, and he's good to take care of all the issues that need to be taken care of around these cannons. My opponent gets turn 1, and these Ungor make a mad dash for the building. And his army moves up full speed as fast as he can go. A headlong charge for my Empire Statesman, which is always scary. I really wanted first turn here to get an extra round of shooting on those Minotaurs to try and drop them down to a manageable size, but it wasn't meant to be. And over here, he rolls pretty piddly with his Chaos Spawn, and his Tuskor Chariot just matches its speed. In the magic phase, he gets off Curse of Honor here on these Demigryph Knights. It was the first spell he went off after with his level 1, but he rolled relatively high. I didn't have much dice to really chase it, so I let it go in attempts to stop any sorts of Wild Form or Amber Spears going off, because I didn't really plan on using this unit too much anyways. Yeah, I'd like to get him in a better position, but it really wasn't too detrimental that this spell got off. I didn't really want to charge through the woods is what the main factor was, because with only 3 demigryphs in a unit, I really can't risk losing a couple wounds to terrain, because if one of those goes down, the combat potential of the unit is severely debilitated. So on my turn 1, I take my halberdiers and I shimmy back a little bit, and my bunker shimmies back a little bit. My greatsword shimmy back a little bit, and my sword and board swordsmen there move up a little bit. Just because if I want to take a charge with anything, I'd rather take it with them, just because I really don't care about them. And I take my demigryphs and I try and charge. It's a long bomb charge. I need a 9 with Swift Stride to get into his gore herd there. Maybe a 9 or a 10, but I do it anyways just because I don't really fear there's Tuskor Chariot. His spawn won't be able to get to me, and I want to try and get into those gore and help out against the Minotaurs and the Bestigors as fast as possible. So I take this 1 unit and I try and charge it in, and I fail, and it puts him at a reasonable length for his Tuskor Chariot to get. I think he need a 7 or 8 on Swift Stride to get in there, which is by all means, a little bit. He has a better chance above average to get in there. But I really wanted to try that long bomb charge, but it didn't work out. My captain of the Pegasus moves up like so. He's out of the line of sight of the Tuskor Chariot, so he'll be able to counter whatever he wants to do with the spawn or the Tuskor Chariot. Whatever I do, that captain will be able to aid in getting my demigryphs out of combat if they get stuck in with a chariot. So I throw 3 dice at banishment. It goes off. I'm only managed to do 1 wound though, so that was a waste. Cannon shot number 1 goes through 2 Minotaurs. I managed to kill both Minotaurs. Cannon shot number 2 goes through another Minotaur, kills it, and I roll the 1 to wound the next Minotaur. So I managed to fell 3 Minotaurs in my first round of shooting, which is awesome. This unit looks a lot more manageable. I can definitely deal with it now, or I should say a lot better. Having a lack of any sort of shooting besides the cannons is not so great, because I really need to take as many wounds off these Minotaurs as I can, because this and the Bestigor unit are mission priorities here. The gore I'm not scared of. Big surprise. So he takes his Tuskor Chariot and turn 2 Beastmen, and he manages to make the charge into my Demigryph Knights. So as long as he doesn't do too many impact hits, I should be able to finish that combat up right quick. And his Chaos Spawn rolls Boxcars and just barely misses the combat here, which I'm very thankful for. I really don't want my Demigryphs getting tied up with that too. And his gore herd there, you can see, move up and face the trees and face the Demigryphs there. His Minotaurs waste no time and charge right into my grill, so he's not fooling around there. And his Bestigor horde does the same thing. He pretty moves up his full speed, so either I charge him, he charge me. I'm not really worried about +1 combat res with the charge. I have to make sure I have a favorable situation set up here. So, and his bunker moves up like so. And his Ungors move into the building there, so you don't really see too much of them for a while, although they will start plinking some wounds off things in the near future. And there you can see his Gore horde there move up to the forest and face off against my Demigryphs, or at least face off, wait there to actually receive or deal with them, or keep them out of the battle, or the rest of the battle there. So in the magic phase, he takes 3 dice, and he goes to cast Amber Spear at my great swords, right through that little gap in between the Minotaurs and the Bestigors, and he irresistible forces. He shoots through 2 of my great swords, so 2 of them die. And in the miscast, he rolls a 5, and he does that small template, and he kills 6 of his Gore there, and he does 1 wound to his Shaman. And is level 1 in this unit. Then he throws 3 dice at Curse of Honor here, and he miscasts. So he puts Curse of Honor here onto my Demigryph Knights again. So now, not only if I want to make this charge happen, I have to charge through the woods, but also now I'm taking Dangerous Train in a 1 or 2. So there's a good chance I'll lose wounds off my Demigryph Knights here, and that's the proposition I want to stay away from. So he rolls a 6 this time, so he gets a small template again, and this time he kills 7 of his Gore, and his Wizard takes a wound. So both 2 of his 3 Wizards are on 1 wound now, so I'm kind of happy about that. I haven't had to do too much. His Ungor, in the building open up and managed to plink one of these halberdiers. Shameful death for a halberdier to get shot by an Ungor to death, but, well, oh well. Oh well. In the combat here, I do 2 wounds to him. I do roll pretty bad with my attacks. I need 4s with the actual Kokobo here to hit him, and 4s to just do a wound, and I only managed to do 2, which I guess is on average. But the Riders whiff, and then he does a wound to me with impact hits. So with a charge and the 1 wound, he ends up winning the combat. Oh, actually, we tie the combat here, so we both stick around. Empire, turn 2, I take my captain on a Pegasus and I fly into the Chaos Spawn in an attempt to dispatch him and free up my Kokobo Knights here as fast as possible. And here you see my Demigriff Knights here. I don't even bother moving them because I don't want to take those wounds. So I take my Swordsmen here and I move them right into the grill of the Dark Chocolate Minotaurs here. So they don't have a choice now but to go into my piddly little Swordsman here I don't really care about. Now I take my Halberdiers and I move them up like so. So his Bestigor herd really has no choice but to charge my Halberdier unit, which is exactly where I want them because they will be better able to absorb the casualties. So the way they're angled here, he could try and charge my great swords, but if he did, it would be a horrendous clip, and he would definitely drag the halberdiers in, so we'd be fighting both units at once, which I'm okay with, because it would maximize the amount of damage my swordsmen, my swordmasters would take, because I need them to deal with whatever else he has in the game. And the halberdiers are usually really good at taking one unit out of the game, and after that, they are just worth absolute dirt, because they're so severely depleted, because they can't take wounds. So, if he does go into the halberdiers, all I have to do is stick one round, and I can take my great swords into the flank. So I'm really happy about this situation. In the magic phase, I do manage to get a 12-inch bubble phos protection, so everything here is going to be -1 to hit, which is amazeballs. So now I don't have to worry about taking so many casualties on whatever unit that Bestigor herd goes into. I also take this opportunity to throw Speed of Light on my swordsmen here, so now they're weapon skill 10. So these gnarly chocolate minotaurs here will be hitting me on 6s, which will severely deplete their charge. I mean, granted, they'll still get their impact hits and their stomps, which is what's going to be the majority of the combat res. But at least they're not going to do too many attacks through their actual attacks. Wounds through their actual attacks. So I also go for Barona's Time Warp to add some extra attacks here to my halberdier unit, but it draws his Dispel Scroll out. So it had to come out at some point. I would have loved to have Always Strike First, and that would give me some rerolls and have that extra attack, which is always nice. But after that, he had no dice because he went for the Bubble Phos and he couldn't catch it. So I take the remainder of my dice, and I put a 5+ ward on my halberdier horde, which is, I really can't. Now these guys are a bunch of demons. So in the shooting phase, I misfire with one cannon. I roll a 5. And the next one, I managed to do one piddly wound to the Minotaur unit. So those Hershey Kiss Minotaurs there, I wasn't able to deplete them any further this turn, besides one wound. In the combat here, it was a complete slap fight. I think they just sat down and had some tea, some cookies, made a salad, watched some Oprah. I don't know, but this was just so sad. Nobody does any wounds to anything, and nobody runs anywhere, so we just sit here and have a nice little fiesta. Beastman, turn 3. He takes his Gore additional hand weapon horde, and he tries to charge the Curse of Honor here, Demigriffs. And another reason why I didn't want to make this charge is not only because the wounds I probably would have taken, but I didn't want to do this charge because I was -1 to hit. And Beastman being weapon skill 4 is a pretty good defense, so I would have need 5s to hit him with this unit, and I just would have lost combat through ranks and banners. So he takes this opportunity to try to capitalize. Since I didn't do the charge, that extra +1 combat res, he tries to charge me, and he fails the charge, so he's just sitting in the woods there, which I'm okay with. He takes his Mounds Bar Snickers Minotaurs here, and he goes into my swordsman, which he kind of has to do at this point. He's kind of committed, so even though he's hitting me on 6, he's going to rely on those impact hits and stomps to try and beat me through combat res and break me. And as I thought, this Bestigor herd goes into my halberdier, so yeah, I'm -1 hit I'm happy about. I got a 5+ ward. It could be a lot worse. I could have no buffs at all, so this should be an interesting fight. In the magic phase, he casts Amber Spear to go take out some more. But my great swords, he really doesn't like them, so he wants to kill as many as he can before I actually get in combat. And he rolls a 1 to wound the first one, so no wounds there. Then he rolls 3 dice on wild form on this Bestigor herd, and I have my Dispel Scroll waiting at this point. I have a bunch of dice left. I don't care. I'm like, no wild form for you. And of course, he miscasts. So now these Bestigor will be Strength 7, which I don't really care about the strength. But the bad part is he's Toughness 5 now. So with my halberds, I was wounding him on 4s. Now it's going to 5s, which is a huge difference. That is not good for me. So in the miscast, he managed to do a wound. He rolls the one where an 8 or 9 where it does that feedback and it does strength 6 hits to everybody. Puts a wound on this wizard. So now all his wizards, they only all have 2 wounds and they both are sitting on a wound. The rest of his wizards go unscathed from that. But all his wizards only have 1 wound left now. So his Ungor open up and managed to do a wound to my Hurricanum. Oh well. So in the combat here, I strike first because this is initiative great weapon. Well, he issues a challenge with his Beast Lord. I accept with my champion, and he only managed to do one wound to my champion, so my champion dies, but not too bad for the combat res. Now I strike next, and I completely forget my Hurricanum, which is so stupid because I managed to fell a total. I have hatred, so I'm hitting him on 4s with a reroll. Hitting him on 3s with a reroll as opposed to 4s with a reroll is a whole different ball game. So that was a big mistake. And you'll find out why when I'm done explaining this combat, why it was even bigger mistake. So I fell 7 of the Bestigor, which is actually pretty good considering their toughness 5. I'm not really going to complain there. I did 10 wounds, but he's made 3 of his 6+ armor saves. So quite lucky for himself. And you'll know why that extra one was an extra big deal when I finish describing this combat. So he does 10 wounds to me. He's got a charge. He's got ranks. He's got banners. He's got BSB. He ends up winning the combat by 4 or 3 because he puts me on a rerollable 6 or 7 with my general. But I should be steadfast here, but he has 5 Bestigor in that last rank. Had I killed 1 more Bestigor, I would have been steadfast. So instead of a rerollable 9, I'm on a rerollable 5 or 6, which is not good. If I had that one, if I remember to hit on 3s, if I got the +1 to hit with my Hurricanum, odds are I would have killed 1 more Bestigor, and that's all I needed to keep my steadfast. So I'm not able to make the roll. He pursues me. I run right off the board whether he catches me or not. That's a minor detail. I pop through my Hurricanum and out the other side. That's the problem with backing up. I had no room to flee, so that's castling in the edge of the board is never really a great idea. But I just wanted as much time as I can to do as much damage as I could with my magic and my cannons. So he gets into my Hurricanum, and now I have a whole can of hurt with his Bestigor on my back lines. So this definitely throws my whole entire idea of what I want to do in this game out the window. It's all going to be triage at this point because this Bestigor herd is a force to be reckoned with. So in the combat here, I managed to do 3 wounds to him. He does 7 to me. He does 3 with the impact hits. He does 3 with the stomps, and he only did 1 wound through actual fighting. But he wins the combat here, and I am steadfast, so I stick around in my rerollable 9. In the combat here, my Demigryphs finally awaken, and they slaughter the chariot. My Pegasus captain goes to town on that spawn, so that's done. So I reform to face this Gore herd, which now is pretty much crapping their pants because it's my turn next. So Empire turn 3, I take my great swords and I go into his bunker unit. With him overrunning with his Bestigor, he left his level 2's bunker out in the open, so I'm definitely going to take this opportunity to get his magic off the board to try and get rid of this wild form shenanigans that keeps happening here. And I take both units of Demigryphs and my captain on a Pegasus, and I go straight into these Gores, so now they've officially crapped their pants. I reform my Wizard's bunker, and I try and get the hell out of Dodge, and I quick reform and move as far away, because I know that Hurricanum's not going to hold for poo. The magic phase, I do manage to get Speed of Life on. I don't roll a very good magic phase, so Speed of Life's the best I can do, which should help them survive quite handily. And I do manage to get off Barona's Time Warp. I sneak it through, so these Great Swords will get an extra attack, and they'll be striking at initiative order. Also, I managed to sneak through re-roll to wounds, so I think it was a bit of a mistake in hindsight. Since their strength, I figured because of the strength 5 against toughness 4, I'm only wounding them on 3s. I'm hitting them on. The Hurricanum's still within 6 inches, so I will get +1 to hit. So I'll be hitting him on 3s with a reroll because of hatred, and then I'll need 3s to wound him. I figure the rerolls would help me, but in hindsight, I should have just done the 5+ ward because preserving great swords is always a great idea when you can do it. So the combat here with all my demigryph attacks, it was 18 demigryph attacks. I do really, really bad. I do 1 wound with my demigryphs here, the actual mounts themselves, which is so piddly. But the rider attacks at strength 6, and my captain on a Pegasus, and then the stomps go to town. I managed to kill 12 in total just from those attacks alone. And he does no wounds to me at all. So I promptly break him, and I pursue with 1 unit of demigryphs and my captain on a Pegasus, and the other ones I reform to face his Hershey Kiss Minotaurs here. In the combat here with the Minotaurs, he manages to do 4 wounds to me. I do 2 wounds to him, so I'm chopping down these Minotaurs. You know, I'm weapon skill 10, so I'm hitting him on 3s. That's helping a lot because now I just need to roll. You know, I'm usually hitting with 7 or 8 of them, or 6 or 7 or 8. Well, I'm hitting with most of my attacks, and I just need to roll 5s to do wounds since Minotaurs decide to go to battle naked. So, yeah, that combat's grinding down, but odds are he'll kill me before I kill him, but those demigryphs getting into his flanks will help me mop them up. So in the combat here, he manages to do 6 wounds with his gore with additional hand weapons. Those rerolls to hit really help. You know, and I got a 4+ full plate mail, but I just couldn't save anything. So he does 6 wounds to me, which I think is a good amount considering the amount of attacks he had. I managed to do 14 wounds to him, though, and he flees, and I wasn't able to catch him. And there you see I'm 1 inch away from his butt. My Hurricanum promptly turns to a pile of shambly sticks and twigs. Yeah, pretty much. I didn't even... we rolled it out, but I should have just... I said, look, I should just take this off. And he's like, well, let me roll it. And I let him roll it, and yeah, sure enough, the thing just got turned to oblivion. So reforms to face the meat of my army, which I have nothing there to really protect myself, which is pretty scary. And Beastman turn 4, he charges my bunker, my wizard's bunker there, and I flee promptly. And he could have tried to chase me down, but I did roll a 10 to get away. But he decided for the sure thing, and he wanted to get rid of those swordsmen to free up his Minotaurs, so his Minotaurs could embrace the loving arms of my demigryph knights. So, yeah, my swordsmen's not looking good for them. But I suppose it was better than him reforming and going after the rear of my great swords. So I'm kind of happy about it in one way. But the problem is my general and my BSB... Oh, she's not my general. My wizard, my BSB are in some serious trouble on the back edge of this board here. So in the magic phase, he gets off wild form. I couldn't stop him. So these are strength. Actually, no, I let him get this one off because I really didn't care because I was only going to get 2 attacks to the side anyways, 3 tops. But his general would have struck first. He probably would have killed one. So yeah, I was only going to get 2 attacks to the side. Whether he's strength 7 or strength 6 is no difference to me. So that +1 toughness on those 2 attacks, I didn't really care about. So I let him get this wild form off strategically. Because he went to go as Amber Spear, and I didn't want to lose any more great swords, so I saved my dice for this. And he miscast, and he irresistibly cast Amber Spear. He managed to kill 1 of my great swords. He's had terrible luck with this spell. He kills 1 of my great swords, then he rolls a 1 to wound the next one. And in the magic, in the feedback there, he rolls a 7. No, he rolls an 8 or a 9, and he does magical feedback. So all his wizards take a strength 6 hit, and it kills 2 out of his 3 remaining wizards. So that's not good. And the Ungor Raiders open up here and kill 2 more of my great swords. What a nuisance those guys are. Usually Ungor can't kill anything, but they've done like 4 or 5 wounds so far this game. So the combat here in the middle, it went as expected. I lost 9 of my Empire Statesmen here, even with any sort of buff I had on them. It didn't really matter. I managed to do 1 more wound to the Minotaurs, and I promptly get broken. I flee. His best to go try and pursue, because if he pursues long enough, you can see by this picture, he can get into my generals, not my generals, my wizard's bunker, and they're just automatically destroyed. So I'm lucky he rolls double 1s to flee. Now this is him after he moved up 2 inches. You can tell by that picture. If he had rolled probably about a 7, or at least a 7 or an 8, he would have destroyed my wizard's bunker. So I consider myself extremely lucky here. And you can see the banners gone from this unit too, and the Bestigar herd now has 2 banners behind him because of that despoiler rule. So that unit is now +1 combat res for banner, +1 combat res for BSB, and +2 combat res just for the 2 banners they picked up alone. So that just, if they do no wounds whatsoever, have no ranks, they're still at +4 combat res, which is pretty gnarly. So his Minotaurs try and overrun too with the Blood Greed rule, but it brings him into contact with the Demigryph Knights. So he rolls a 6 for that pursuit roll. So he just creates a new charge against the Demigryphs. Not too worried about that combat. So Empire turn 4, I charge his Gore Herd here, and he rolls a 3 to get away. So I just roll double 1s, but I still have Barona's Time Warp, so those double 1s count as movement 10. No, movement 12, so because I'm double my speed, so my movement, so I managed to catch that unit and run it down, and there they are. So I take my captain in a Pegasus, and he boldly sacrifices himself for the Wizards unit here. I didn't really have much choice with a lack of shaft options. Either I move my BSB in the way, or I move my captain on a Pegasus in the way. And the BSB has a more integral role in this army, so my captain on the Pegasus, although he costs more, it's time for him to die in the name of the Empire. I do manage to rally my Wizard's bunker, and I managed to rally my Swordsman unit there, so that's all well and dandy. I was kind of hoping my Wizard unit would continue to flee, because that wouldn't have been a bad thing. I don't really need magic right now in this situation, although it could help. In the magic phase, I rolled pretty bad for the Winds of Magic, so I do manage to get off a Foz protection here, so there will be -1 to hit the Demigryphs if there's any Minotaurs to swing back. My cannon opens up and takes out 3 Bestigors. It's kind of all not really worth it, but I guess 3 dead. Yay. In the combat here, I do 5 wounds to his Minotaur, so he's got 1 left. His 1 Minotaur does no wounds to me, and he flees, and I overrun, and I come into base contact with my captain on Pegasus, which is kind of bad because it keeps me in the front arc of his Bestigor, so I have to stop 1 inch away from my captain. If I had more movement, I would have gone closer to got more in the middle of that Bestigor herd, but that's as far as I could go. So I really didn't have a choice there. So my Demigryph unit there is kind of flapping out in the wind. But then again, so is my level 4 and my Swordsman unit here. So everything's kind of flapping in the wind at the mercy of this Bestigor horde. So he takes his Bestigor horde and he charges into my captain on a Pegasus because it's in his way. And you can see right now that when he went to close the door, he came ever so close to clipping my BSB there, which meant he would have dragged my bunker unit into the fight. So I'm thankful for that. So I issue a challenge to my captain on a Pegasus, and he decides to accept with his Beast Lord. He manages to do a wound to the captain on the Pegasus. The captain on the Pegasus does one wound to him. I got that hold your ground rule, but he's got a charge. He's got 2 ranks. He's got the +4 for the combat res from all the banners he has. I am on Snake Eyes, pretty much, or close to it, and I fail, and he catches me and runs me down and goes straight into the flank of my Demigryph Knights, and you can see where the murder show begins. My turn 5, I'm sick and tired of these archers here in the building, and since I really don't want to take my great swords into the Bestigor herd because I feel like the Bestigor herd will just destroy them, so I quick reform them. I face the building to deal with these idiots in the building. The magic phase of mine is to get speed of light, so I'm weapon skill 5. Weapon skill 10 on my Demigryph Knights here, which is always nice. But as you can see, the worst thing about Demigryphs is taking a charge in the side. I'd rather take it in the front or the bum, to be honest with you. But only getting 1 Demigryph to swing is pretty detrimental to their survivability. In the shooting phase, I hit with both cannons. I roll 6s with both cannons for the amount of D6 10 strength 10 shots they take. I kill 9 of the Ungor, leaving 1 left alive. This quirky little jamoke here with a microphone singing, Bee Gees. See, there you can see him with a microphone. He's saying "Staying Alive" right there by the Bee Gees, and the building is a smoldering mess. He's just taunting me. Oh, he's still inside the building, but yeah, it's just for aesthetic purposes there. He just wants to, he's actually taunting me. He's model to taunt. So, and he happens to be the last one left. So, yeah. In the combat here, it rages on, and I do 4 wounds with my Demogryphs, which is pretty good considering I only have 1 attacking. He does 6 wounds to the unit, which is pretty good. And I'm on Snake Eyes again to try and stick around, and I fail, and he decides to run me down. Now, he could have reformed to face my bunker, my level 4 wizard, my BSB, and the swordsman there, but he thought this was the last turn of the game, and so did I. So he just wanted to pick up those points. And here you can see he overran, he pursued, and he destroyed the Demogryphs, and he's sitting here facing off at my other unit of Demogryphs. I just kind of left here because I didn't have a purpose with him after they charged down that gore herd. So had there been one more turn, yeah, this game might have been a little bit different, but we thought this was turn 6, so it just goes to show you to keep track of the turns. So the way it stood right now, it was still a victory to the Empire, but had he reformed this unit, had he thought there was one more turn, he could have went after my Wizard's bunker, and who knows what would have happened there, because that unit definitely couldn't have survived a frontal assault from the Bestigor. I obviously would have had to flee and take my chances of getting away from him there. So some notes. The biggest turning point of this game was the Halberdiers breaking, and that was due to my own negligence. Remember your buffs. That Hurricane, that +1 power dice is nice. The bounce spell is, it's gimmicky, but if you can get it off, I guess it's free, and you haven't really, your wizard probably already failed to cast, and you've really pre-start in combat. So, yeah, the reason why it's there is +1 to hit, which is amazing with Hatred. And that, me forgetting that cost me that. All I needed was 1 more wound, be steadfast. I could have had my great swords in the flank, and those Bestigors would have went down. That was my only opportunity in this game to actually defeat those Bestigors, and because of my own negligence, forgetting to remember my buff, that cost me my Halberdier unit and almost cost me the game. And if this did go to a turn 6, it could have very well cost me the game. Next note, Warrior Priest. That 5+ ward, that is so... it's like it's a must take, really. If you're taking any unit that you want to have any survivability, or any unit, it's so tough to get. It's so rare to have any sort of combat punch with Empire. You're talking strength 5 with great swords is the best that you're gonna get as far as just base power. And they have a 4+ ward, yeah, but that really doesn't account for much. And being able to give them a 5+ ward, especially the Halberdiers who are just wearing, they're just wearing tank tops pretty much to battle with that 6+ save. So being able to turn your combat blocks into demons essentially is pretty amazing. It's so underrated, and giving them a 5+ ward is just awesome. I love that. It's something like Warrior Priest. Why would you not take one in every unit you want to be successful? Because there really is not too many units in Empire that are not successful without Warrior Priest. If you could put a Warrior Priest on a Demogryph, I would say they'd be completely broken. But that's something I'll wait for the next Empire book. If anybody who writes the books is listening, let me put a Warrior Priest on a Demogryph. That is pretty amazeballs. Bestigors. Wow. Now, my own Beastmen army, I love Bestigors. There's no, if Bestigors were a core choice, you would never take a gore. And, hands down. The Primal Fury is just completely decimating to anything they go against. The strength 6 with the rerolls to hit is barf. So those Bestigors, man, I had that one opportunity to get rid of them, and it didn't work out for me. So after that, they just rampaged, and there was nothing I could do. You can see my Demogryphs that pursued upwards and onwards, and the same with my Swordmasters. After they pursued upwards, I had no intention of coming back down. The rest of my army, as far as I'm concerned, was screwed. So those Bestigors, wow, it makes me want to take 2 blocks in my 2,500 point list. I can get 2 solid blocks of Bestigors. Problem is they are kind of expensive at 11, but for what they do for 11 or 12 points, whatever they cost, they are amazing. They are beasts in combat. I would love to take as many as I can. After I'm done with my project I'm working on now, my new army, I might go back and paint up a whole bunch more Bestigors to have some fun with them. The next one, light buffs, awesome. Empire, there's some better spells out there. It's nice to have, Mind Razor, and Shadow is always a good option, but I don't think Shadow's the funnest option for fun games, so I love lower light and just being able to stop people in their tracks. Like, oh yeah, you have this fierce combat unit, you can do all sorts of strength 10 hits, and, your weapon skill, 4 or 5 with strength 10. But, oh wait, no, weapon skill 10 with -1 to hit, and you're doing nothing. So those light buffs on squishy Empire troops are key to, I think, to keeping them alive, especially if you're going to run a lot of actual foot troops, which I think is very aesthetically pleasing for me. I like the bodies, I like the style, and light is the way to go. On to my last statement here. Swordsman jump there. That unit of 30 swordsmen is just such cannon fodder. I really got to start thinking about a better way I can use those points. I mean, they're kind of cheap for what they do, but what they do is absolutely nothing. I mean, they're pretty much going to battle with matchsticks and trying to, scratch people to death with them. So that is something I'm definitely going to think about moving forward is what I can do to better utilize. Because I got to use the core points, and 40 halberdiers or 50 halberdiers is a great way to use some core points. I might even take them out for another, try and get another horde of halberdiers. Maybe 2 hordes of halberdiers with my core points is the way to go. But it's something I got to think about moving forward, and I got to use those core points. And right now I have them tied up in halberdiers and swordsmen. But those swordsmen, man, they do nothing besides. They're just really steadfast. And God forbid someone is better in combat and has more ranks than me. Then those swordsmen are completely useless. Usually I end up just throwing in whatever kind of monster or whatever I need to tie up for a turn or two. They're kind of like the skeletons in my undead army, which is pretty sad because the swordsmen have potential for so much more. Why they went to Initiative 3 is beyond me, because Initiative 4 would at least make them... No, they still would have been pretty bad. But Initiative 4 would certainly help. So, there you go. A victory to the Empire. Thank you very much for watching.